This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English. Here's your host, Martin Johnston.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English. Episode number 136, baby. Oh yeah. In today's episode I speak to Dan the Man about public transport. We analyse different types of public transport, taxis, planes, cars, buses, you name it. We speak about it. Remember, all of the rock and roll vocabulary from this episode is on the website, rockandrollenglish.com. Go there, find the episode number 136. If you want the flashcards and if you want a quiz about all of this vocab and grammar, go to rockandrollenglish.com/family. Anyway, that's enough of me talking. I will speak to you again at the end. In the meantime, happy listening. Dan the Man, how are you today?
I'm good, how are you?
Always fantastic, Dan. Always fantastic. Are you still confident Brexit isn't happening?
Yeah, I'm confident that nothing will really change. So yeah.
I just feel so much better because I'm really worried about all this, but Dan the Man says it's going to be fine, okay? So there's no need to worry, okay? Everything will be fine.
Are you genuinely worried?
Of course, there could be loads of problems, Dan. Anyway, we don't want to go into that again because we spoke about that last week. Some rock and roll vocabulary, they go into something to start talking about it. So let's move on with the show. How do we usually start the show, Dan?
With a review.
Do you think we have a review?
Yes.
Incorrect, Dan. Incorrect.
Oh, really?
I purposely didn't tell you this week, so I had the possibility to embarrass you. It's worked, so I'm happy with that. And just a message to everyone, remember, I cannot see reviews, so if you are kind enough to leave one, please send it to me on social media. I always respond. Anyway, Dan, so do you know what we're talking about today?
No.
Okay, I actually haven't told you this week, not like last week when I did tell you and you couldn't remember. So I will let you off. Oh, some rock and roll vocabulary. What does that mean, Dictionary Dan?
It kind of means forgive me or you'll forget about.
Yeah, basically it means I won't punish you, okay?
Punish?
I won't punish you, okay? I could punish you, Dan, but I'm not going to. So, at the moment, I've obviously moved out of the city. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast. I think I have. So, I now have to take public transport. So, that's what we're looking at, Dan. Public transport, okay? Can you handle that?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you handle that? Can you manage that? So, how do you move around the city, Dan?
I either walk or I get the bikes that they provide here.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just can't imagine you on a bike.
Why?
I think it's actually because when you came to see me in Palermo and you were cycling and it was too much for you and you had to get off. So notice that phrase of you get off a bike and he was like, I can't go anymore, and started pushing his shit bike. I think you had a basket on it if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I had a fucking awful bike. You had like a Tour de France bike, and it was incredibly difficult. Tour de France?
Mine's a foldable bike. It's fucking for like a clown. You know those ones that clowns have with the tiny wheels? That's my bike, but I kept going down. I kept moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you exaggerate that story somewhat.
Notice there how he said somewhat at the end. That was a lovely piece of rock and roll vocabulary, Dan. Basically to say a little bit. Not sure. I think I will actually post a picture of this, of Dan just giving up. You can see even his facial expression that he's just given up. So the next question, Dan, how do you get to work? What a means of transport do you take?
I take 2 feet.
2 feet, not one.
Not one, yeah. I don't hop.
So hop, that's exactly what you do. When you kind of walk with 1 foot, that's called hopping. And if anyone doesn't know, Dan the Man is a freelance human being, okay? Just in case we've got any new listeners which don't know what your day job is, Dan. So your day job is like your 9 to 5 job.
9 to 6.
You work 9 to 6, do you?
Yeah.
I thought you work from 4 o'clock in the morning because Dan the Man said in a recent Rock and Roll English Family podcast that he wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning for We don't really know why. He put a picture in the Facebook group of the gym and said, "This is why I wake up early." And it was daylight outside. So the idea of the picture was to say, look, wake up early and then go to the gym in the day.
I didn't say, "This is why I wake up early." And secondly, I took a picture of that gym and that was 8 o'clock in the morning. But you accused me of taking it at 1 in the afternoon.
That's the thing I don't understand. So you wake up at 4... and to say, this is the benefits of waking up at 4. You can go to the gym at 8.
No, I went to the gym at 6:30.
Sure you were, Dan. Sure you were. Okay, we all believe you. Don't worry.
Do you know what? I posted that in the group innocently and just thought, I'll just post that in the group. And within 5 seconds, you're in there.
Attacking you, yeah. Okay? Yeah, of course. Of course. I couldn't let that one slide. So if you let something slide, you don't say anything about it, even if it annoys you. So another way to move around the city, Dan, is a cab. So a taxi. What about them? Do you ever take them?
There's not actually many taxis here. It's a really strange... I mean, there are, but they tend to be like top of the range Mercedes. And there's no way I'm getting that to go to the fucking pub.
To go to the pub, no. Or to go to the gym, hey.
Oh yeah, I would never get a taxi to the gym.
Yeah, if you get a taxi to the gym.
Yeah.
It's not going to look very good with the other people that go, is it? You're just getting your Mercedes taxi there.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I've noticed, though, from my travels around the world, because, I've travelled a bit, haven't I, Dan?
Where have you travelled to?
I travel from Palermo to London quite a lot.
I've travelled.
I've travelled, boy. But I've noticed that cab drivers all around the world are bastards. Am I wrong or am I right?
Apologies to any cab drivers listening to this now. I don't agree with him.
So cab drivers, just in case people aren't familiar with that term, taxi drivers. For example, in England, they talk so much because they want a tip. They want that money at the end. So they think if I talk to him, then he's going to give me money. But what I'm really thinking is, I'll give you money to not talk to me. So please don't.
The last time I can remember having a really bad conversation in a cab was actually, not to go back to it, but the day of the Brexit vote. And you can imagine the sort of shit he was talking to me about.
So this is obviously in England, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, they're not known for their philosophical discussions in England, are they?
Exactly. I remember once I was in America and I was in Vegas, actually, with one of my friends, and we hadn't been to sleep. Well, we'd slept about an hour, obviously been drinking, got the taxi to the airport, and the taxi driver's talking to us and says, "Oh, so you flying direct to London?" And we said, "No, we have to stop in Cincinnati." He went, "Ah, Cincinnati. How's that airport, man?" What kind of question is that? How is that airport? I was like, oh, fucking hell. My friend just said, "It's just an airport." Basically, shut up.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I don't care. They probably talk to me. I just don't listen.
That's why you have no friends, Dan, okay? Because people talk to you and you don't listen.
Do you have many cab driver friends?
Oh, loads, Dan. Loads. All me and my cab driver friends. And we're going out tonight, actually, meeting up for a nice dinner. It's going to be great. So another way, obviously, to move around the city, I don't really think it's considered public transport, but is a car. You could have car sharing, I suppose. Do you remember how to drive, Dan?
Of course I remember how to drive, yeah.
When was the last time you drove?
At Christmas, when I had to go to, I had to borrow my sister's car.
Wow, this seems like a really interesting story.
It's not an interesting story. You're like the cab driver asking me, "Do you like Cincinnati Airport?" When was the last time you drove?
You know what? That's a good point, actually. As I mentioned last week, I'm trying to get my driving licence changed so I can drive here in Italy after Brexit. I think just after we recorded that one, actually, I went to the place and said, "Look, what do I need to do?" And he said, "Okay, you need a copy of your residence certificate thing." I said, "Yep, no problem." Some photos, no problem. And then he said, "You need to get your driving licence translated into Italian." And I said, "But on my driving licence, there's just my name, my address, and my date of birth." And he said, "Yeah, you need to get that translated." So I said, "So I need to change my name into Italian. What, am I going to change it from Martin to like Martino?" And he said yes.
Are you serious?
Yeah, but I think it was just because he was an idiot and hadn't understood. So then I said, okay, what about my surname, Johnston? What's that? Johnstono. And then he said, oh, actually, that's okay. So I need to take this driving licence to court to get it translated. And there are 2 words I need to get translated. I need to get the words driving licence translated into Italian.
Surely they could just have that on file. Like, this is what it is.
You would think so. Plus, it's exactly the same as the Italian one. Another way, I suppose, not to move around the city, but transport is planes. What are your thoughts of planes, Dan?
I think you could be a cab driver with these questions, mate. These are fucking terrible. I don't care. It's a plane. I mean, I don't like airports. I don't like waiting around. I don't like faff.
Yeah, there's some nice vocabulary. Faff, just when you're not really doing anything, you're just sort of wasting time. Okay, let's change it. Let's have a better question, Dan. What's your favourite means of transport?
Is that a better question? I don't know.
That's something I think about a lot, Dan.
I like to walk.
Oh, God. I much prefer the planes because people can't disturb me because my phone doesn't work on the plane, and it basically means I'm not going to get any voice messages from you, Dan.
Yeah, okay, sure, I leave you voice messages, but you can be disturbed because I like to put headphones in. Sometimes I even take an eye mask just because I just can't handle the staff on the airplane trying to sell me lottery tickets.
So when he said they're an eye mask, that's something you put over your eyes to help you sleep. I think there's only one company that tries and sell you lottery tickets. But as I said, the main reason is because you can't send me voice messages. Just so people know, I get, 10 voice messages a day from Dan the Man. And the worst thing is I have to listen to him think and answer his own questions. He says like, oh, what should we do about this? Oh, I know, we should do this. Okay, bye.
Yeah, I noticed actually in I think it was one of the family episodes, you actually put in one of my voice messages that I had to translate as well.
Privacy is nowhere on Rock and Roll English, okay, Dan? Just be aware of that, okay? Yeah. So the biggest 2 for public transport are the bus and the train. And I thought we could look at some of the etiquette on the bus and the train. So, etiquette, like the rules, the unwritten rules. Okay.
Well, there doesn't seem to be any unwritten rules on Italian buses. I remember when I went to Palermo with you, I was going to the beach, and it was so crowded, I felt like I was being sexually assaulted.
Well, that's exactly what I was about to talk about. Touching people on buses. It's a bit of a difficult one because, you don't like to touch strangers. Well, I don't. Do you, Dan?
No, of course not.
Sure. But when you're on that bus and it's so crowded, you just find yourself pushed up against like a 50-year-old woman, like, I don't know, touching her breasts.
Especially if you can't hold on to anything. So you're right in the middle and that you're at the mercy of the sway of the bus and then you sort of drifting into people. That's horrible.
Yeah, exactly. So drifting into people, just sort of moving into people. As he said, the sway of the bus, the movement. Yeah, it's an absolute nightmare. Plus, sometimes you get people trying to steal stuff from your pockets. And it's like, can you just not try and steal stuff from me? Is that okay?
What, you actually caught someone trying to steal stuff?
I've had it twice, actually. Once in Spain and once in Italy, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't even know how I'd react. I'd be pretty upset.
See, because I'm such a wimp, so a wimp is someone like that's not strong with no courage, I just sort of moved his hand away from my pocket and didn't say anything. Because what can you say? He can't get off the bus. You can't say...
ask him, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And then drive your forehead into his skull. And then
he would have destroyed me and I wouldn't be making this podcast today because I would be dead, because the people that do that kind of thing are not the type of nice, friendly people you want to have a conversation with.
No way. No, I don't believe that at all. I think the people who steal like that are pieces of shit that don't want, they skulk around in the shadows. They're scum.
Okay, really happy podcast this one, isn't it, today? Really just sort of making the world seem like a great place. And I just want to emphasise that these things happen everywhere, including England, okay? People try and steal things on buses as well, okay?
No, of course. I was talking about England. Actually, I was going to ask you, because obviously normally you say, listen, we don't judge, we love everyone. If we've got any pickpockets listening to this show. Do you love them?
So pickpockets are people that steal things from your pockets. I don't know if pickpockets really want to learn English and are big rock and roll English fans. But if you are listening,
stop doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, that's the best advice we can think of. So the other big problem, you're on the bus. There are no free two-seaters. So you have to sit next to someone, don't you? And you think, oh God, as you're walking down, you're making your decision and thinking, oh, he doesn't look very good. He looks like he smells. He looks like he's going to be talking on the phone. And then you sit down next to someone who stinks. So stinks, smells very bad. What do you do then? Do you get up and move? It's a difficult one.
Yeah, I would move. In fact, actually, I was on a bus in Paris last year and there was not many seats left and there was only one next to me. And I could see someone walking down. And I could see he liked the look of this seat because, it was like kind of tucked away. It was on the back seat. And I thought,
so tucked away there, some nice vocabulary. Tucked away, hidden away.
And I didn't want anyone to sit next to me. So as he came down, I could see he glanced at the seat or looked at the seat. So I just raised my arm and smelt my own armpit. And he chose a different seat.
Good choice. So when he said there, he glanced at me. So that's just a little look. And your armpit, just in case people don't know, is the bit sort of under your arm where you put deodorant, the bit that smells. That is actually a really intelligent thing to do, Dan. I like that idea.
You're welcome.
Nice to know, though, you were just being so friendly of like, yeah, come and sit next to me. It's okay. I'll help you. It's a crowded bus. Come and sit here.
The thing is, I had to run for the bus, so there was a strong chance I did smell. So I was also helping him at the same time.
You did it for him.
Yeah.
You did it for him, his benefit. And another thing is taking buses in different countries because, you don't know how things work. I remember, for example, in Italy, I didn't know that you buy the ticket and then you have to validate the ticket on the bus because in England you just pay. Well, in the past you had to pay the bus driver. And it's just, everything's just a nightmare. You're thinking, oh, fucking hell, what's going on? Where am I going to get off? It's just so stressful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the same here. I don't really get the bus too much for that reason.
How much do you actually leave the house, Dan, is my question.
Every day.
Every day, yeah? You sure?
Yeah.
We're not talking about leave your bedroom, okay? Leave the house.
Oh, that is every day, for sure.
I actually once got fined in Rome for not having a ticket. He said to me, in Italian, obviously, biglietto, which is ticket. And I pretended I didn't understand. And I said, no, sorry, I don't speak Italian because I didn't have a ticket. And then he said, that's okay, let's just speak English. And I thought, oh, fucking hell.
So what did you say?
I said, oh, shit, and then had to pay a €50 fine, basically.
But what would happen if you didn't pay it? What if you said, you didn't have your card on you or whatever it was?
You had to give an ID card and then apparently they can send a fine to you, stuff like this. So it wasn't worth the risk, Dan, okay? I accepted it, I learnt from it, and I moved on, okay? Since then, I've almost nearly bought a ticket when I'm on a bus, okay?
So you just get on the bus?
Depends, because sometimes I actually can't buy a ticket, but generally I don't take the bus after that anymore. I cycle, okay? Another problem is people speaking on their phones. This obviously has been a problem for, 20 years or so now. People speaking and they think, I want everyone to hear the conversation. But I had a new experience the other day of someone that was doing a video call. So not only could I hear the person's voice that was on the bus, I could also hear the person on the video call. No headphones. I thought, Jesus Christ, what has the world come to? So there's some nice vocabulary. What has the world come to? What's going on with the world?
Yeah, that sort of thing really fucking infuriates me. Over here, actually, I noticed people carry around speakers, like portable speakers, and then blare out the music and whatever they're doing so everyone can hear it. They refuse to wear headphones. It annoys me.
So blare out the music when it's going really loud. That also happens in England, Dan. I've definitely seen that in England.
I've never seen that in England.
I 100% have seen that in England. As I've said it once, and I'll say it again, idiots are everywhere. Okay?
Yeah, of course.
That's the problem.
But it's just a different breed of idiot. In England, they're just... it's a different... They're real... They're real idiots in England. But
They're not like the fake ones. They're the real idiots.
Yeah.
Okay. There was also taking the bus in school. And I don't know if this is the same in other countries, but in England, all of the cool kids sit at the back of the bus, okay, and just do cool things that kids do, basically. Where did you sit on the bus, Dan?
I don't think I've ever sat on the back seat.
It's your dream to sit on the back seat, isn't it?
Even as an adult, when I see the back seat, the other adults just sort of shake their head as I walk up. Like, okay.
You're not sitting here, mate. You're not cool enough.
Yeah.
You're not cool enough with just those blue jeans and white T-shirts.
So I go and stand at the front and talk to the bus driver.
Yeah, you'll be lucky to get a bus driver that talks to you. You're not allowed to talk to them in England, are you? Even if you try and just say, like, what stop is, or where is this stop, can you tell me? They don't even say no.
They just point to the sign.
Yeah, point to the sign that says, don't speak to the bus driver. You think, okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're such a kind person. A thing that, having done a tiny bit of research for this podcast, I mean about 5 minutes, one of the questions I saw is, do rich people take public transport? I've never thought about it, but I've never seen, I don't know, the Queen, for example, on a bus. Have you?
Yeah, but that's not a rich person. That's the fucking Queen of England.
Okay, but rich people in general, do they take buses?
Well, I don't know. Why are you asking me? I don't know these.
You're supposed to be a fountain of knowledge, Dan, okay? This is why you're here. You're supposed to tell us the answers. You're like the Messiah. You're the God that knows all the answers.
I'm going to keep that as a soundbite.
So a soundbite, I'd imagine, I don't even really know what that means. I'm thinking, though, it's like a clip of sound that you're going to keep, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you do that. But last but not least, Dan, if there's one thing that I hate about public transport, and I'm sure you do as well, it's when it's late.
Oh, I mean, I don't care if there's been an earthquake. You arrive on time.
Exactly, yeah. When Dan and I record this podcast, basically, if someone is not here 1 minute before the agreed time, oh God, there is hell to pay. So when there's hell to pay, it means the other person gets really angry and says, what the fuck are you doing? Okay, it's a competition, basically, who can be earlier.
Yeah. And I arrived, I actually, as I turned on the computer today, I realised it said 7:29, and I thought, oh fuck.
Because the agreed time was 7:30. And, you know, that's late in my book, in my opinion. Anyway, thanks a lot for all of your answers on public transport, Dan. Okay, I feel a lot better about taking it now.
No worries. All right, I'll speak to you later.
See you later. Bye-bye. Okay, so that was Dan the Man and me speaking about public transport. So let's have a look at some of that rock and roll vocabulary. At the beginning, we mentioned a couple of things about Brexit, and I said we don't want to go into that again. So when you go into something, it's when you start talking about it. Dan the Man then didn't remember that we were speaking about public transport, and I said I will let you off. So when you let someone off, it's when you kind of don't punish them. You do something wrong and the other person doesn't punish you. Obviously, I was using it in a joking way, but maybe if you don't do your homework, your teacher can let you off. We had the term get off the bike when we were speaking about Dan and how he couldn't handle cycling. But notice the phrasal verb, get off the bike. The opposite, get on the bike. Oh, yeah, baby. He said that I exaggerated that story somewhat. Lovely rock and roll piece of vocabulary there. Just put in somewhat at the end, just to say a little bit. He also said that he doesn't walk with one foot. So when you walk with just one foot, what do? You hop. It's kind of jumping with one foot. Hopping. Generally, children do that, but you can do that if you want. Everyone can hop if you want to. We were then speaking about Dan the Man's day job, which, as we all know, is a freelance human being. So a day job is the job you do in the day. For example, my day job is an English teacher, and then in the evenings, I am a podcaster, I suppose. We were then talking about Dan the Man putting that picture in the Rock and Roll English Family group, the secret group on Facebook, and I said I couldn't let it slide. So when you let something slide, it's when you see something that you don't like and you don't say anything. But I couldn't let it slide. I had to say something. And speaking of that, for all members of the Rock and Roll English family, pay attention to the Facebook group today, because there is something else connected to that I will be posting. Dan the man said that he doesn't like any faff. So when you faff, it's when you don't really do anything. Faffing around is a common term. Maybe you want to go to a restaurant and people say, okay, shall we just decide what we want to do first? Do we want to have a drink? Oh, I've forgotten my cigarettes. Now I need to go back. This is all faffing, okay? Stop faffing and let's go to the restaurant. Dan the man said that he wears an eye mask sometimes on a plane. So that's the thing you put over your face, over your eyes to help you sleep. Although scientifically proven it doesn't help you sleep. But that's another story. Okay, we had the term etiquette on the trains and buses. So the etiquette is like the rules, let's say, the unwritten rules. Dan the man said that when he's on the bus and he's not holding on to something, he drifts into people. He just moves into them almost without noticing. That's when you drift. I then said that I was a wimp. So when you are a wimp, it means that you have no courage and you are not strong. Very much like me. Again, connected to buses, Dan the man said his seat was tucked away. So if something is tucked away, it's hidden. You can't really see it. And he was talking about that time when he saw someone coming to sit next to him. So he glanced at him, just a little look, and then smelt his armpit. So your armpit is the smelly part between your chest and your arm, let's say, the place where you put deodorant. And then I was talking about people using their smartphones on buses, and I said, what has the world come to? A lovely term that just basically means what's going on with the world. We live in a crazy world. Dan the man then said that in Toulouse, where he lives, people blare out music. So blare out, they play the music at a very high volume. I can just imagine Dan the man's face when he sees that. And then we said there is hell to pay if Dan or I are not on time for the podcast. So when there is hell to pay, it means there is trouble, serious trouble. Anyway, remember, all of this rock and roll vocabulary is on the website, rockandrollenglish.com, episode number 136. And again, if you want the flashcards, a quiz, and access to the secret Facebook group, rockandrollenglish.com/family. Okay? I would see you all again on Thursday for the expert secrets. But in the meantime, people, just keep on rocking, baby.
Thanks so much for listening to Rock and Roll English. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit rockandrollenglish.com and facebook.com/rockandrollenglish. We'll catch you next time.